All right, well, we're 10 shows down. We've got one more to go to close out 2023, and we are coming with the card of the year, maybe the best card of all time for the promotion. Zack Partridge, Fierce Fighting Championship 28. An amazing job once again.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this was like we wanted to end the year with a bang, right? I mean, we always try to put on the best cards we can, but sometimes the stars just align and things happen. And we want to end the year with a bang, and then we'll kick it off in 2024 with a bang too.
At the beginning of this year, you had high hopes, and I'm just curious of what your thoughts of what the promotion has done over the last 11 months when I know that you really were looking forward to the biggest year thus far in the promotion's history.
I think we accomplished that, right? I think that's fair to say. I think putting on 11 shows in a year, I think we're probably one of the most active regional shows. There's only a couple other that put on more shows than we do. And the way we do it, moving around, not having like the casino deals. I know the casinos, places that go to casinos and reservations, they there's a lot of benefits to working with them too, right? They cut them breaks on space and stuff, but the way we've done it, going to Idaho, the different Challenger Series locations, and seeing show over show growth at the Maverik Center. I don't think Fierce has ever had as successful of back-to-back cards as we've had this year at the Maverik Center, and just looking to end it with a cap. The show's growing. I think you can see like just the interaction on our social media, the growth of our YouTube channel, building that library. We just hit a lot of milestones this year that I felt like were very important to check off. And I feel like we accomplished a lot of those things.
Man, well, we can't wait for 2024, but we are 94 fights in. We've got 13 more to close this out, and we're going to kick it off at 170 pounds. Carson Craig facing off against Nick Jackson. Nick Jackson, a debut, or Carson Craig back after many years away.
Yeah, Carson's one of my teammates and friend of the promotion. His show, his company, Casey Tree Care, has sponsored a bunch of the Challenger Series shows. He actually did the welding on our small cage for us. So, I mean, he's a friend and a friend of the show. But I mean, he put on one of the all-time fights at Fierce Fighting Championship 2 down in Price, 7 years ago?
Yeah, it was June 4th, 2016, the longest layoff on this card.
So him and Dustin Jones, who made his big comeback this year, fought for us twice this year. They put on an absolute banger. They were both in the hospital together. I've seen the picture of them in the hospital together after broken hands, broken face, and they just put on a war and in a complete show that Carson came out on the right side of. Carson is a very hardworking person that he just said, "Hey, like I'm training with you guys." He trains with myself, Cole Faust, a bunch of the other guys at One Hit MMA, and he through the training he's a lumberjack. He's a real lumberjack that he like climbs trees and cuts trees down and stuff. And he's like, I can't break my hands again. Every time I fight, I get in these brawls. I can't break my hands again because then it puts me out of work. But he's kind of got the itch, and now he's like, well, maybe if we do it going into winter when I don't have too much tree cutting work. So he's getting in there. And Nicholas Jackson's just a guy that's been training a long time. He's an athlete. And he's one of those guys that just hit up Fierce asking for an opportunity to fight. So let him make his debut at the Maverik Center against Carson Craig. And I think they're going to kick off the night with a banger. I from what I can tell from Nicholas, like, I think he's going to, I think he's going to bring it. And, Carson's tough as nails. So we're going to kick off the night with a banger for sure.
Yeah, a quick little thing about Nick Jackson, a collegiate athlete, a dual collegiate athlete, college football over at SUU, as well as collegiate soccer over at the University of Utah. Reminds me a little bit of like an Andrew Mickelson. Like, I mean, we see these collegiate athletes, they take that step up into MMA and they do really well. We will have to see how that first fight goes. All right, we're going to move over to Matthew Chenault, who's coming in from Chandler MMA over in Arizona. On top of that, we've got Ricky Mone coming back, third walk of 2023 for the Hawaiian.
Yeah, man, Ricky's been a trooper throughout this whole thing. I think this is his third different opponent. I think I sent him contracts for 3 or 4 different guys, and people just kept kind of pulling out. Some reasons legit, some not so much. But at the end of the day, you know, you just got to find somebody to stick, and Matthew is coming up with his teammate who's competing on the card, and is excited. I think he's a stud. Everybody down there at Chandler MMA and down in that area, they're pretty good. But you know, Ricky Mamone's a stud, and I'm very, very excited. This would be like a featured bout on a Challenger Series card, you know. So, yeah, I'm excited for this one.
No doubt about it. A couple of very young, talented fighters. On top of that, we've got Kaden Bentley facing off against Vili Kulu. Now, Kaden Bentley, 2-1 since we've last seen him at the Maverik Center. That was September of last year. Since then, gone on a little streak of his own. On top of that, Vili Kulu, his fourth walk of 2023.
So Kaden did what not most people do. Usually, you know, I have to kind of search to find an opponent for Kulu. Kaden asked me for this fight. You know, I've had a lot of people go, why are you doing that? Why are you? I have people question matchmaking all the time. I mean, armchair quarterbacks, right? I mean, it's everywhere in sports. I get these people, why that fight? Because Kaden asked for it. You got to know the whole story. Kaden, he messaged me and he said, hey, I recently lost a title fight. He lost a title fight. He had a medical suspension, so he couldn't make the August card. That was originally what he was supposed to fight Kulu on, but he said, I'll fight him in November when my medical suspension's cleared. So he's gotten everything taken care of. He's healthy, and he asked for this fight, and he wants somebody that'll stand and bang with him. And we know Vili Kulu will absolutely stand and bang with him. I mean, I love the energy. I appreciate it. I like fighters that want to fight, man. And when somebody calls and gives me one of my problems as a matchmaker sometimes is you get these scary guys that are hard to matchmake. When somebody gives me an answer to one of my problems, I'm going to give him those opportunities. So Kaden Bentley's getting that opportunity. He's coming back to Fierce. We're super excited to have him back. And as always, we're super excited to see Vili Kulu try and climb back. I know his goal is to get that rematch with Shaylor Ladd, and a big statement win could in fact make that happen Friday night.
All right. Well, speaking of fighters who like to fight, Talon Carvajal facing off against Moises Oslin. Moises coming in from Temecula, California. Obviously, Talon Carvajal has been successful starting in May, also in June, and now back here in November.
Yeah, I mean, Moises, you know, Talon is one of those guys that I said, hey, I have a 2-0 155er that I'm looking to match. His name's Talon Carvajal. Boom. And I send them the name, and they go to Tapology, and then they go to our YouTube channel because all of our fights are on YouTube. So if you're not, go subscribe to our YouTube channel. But all of our fights are on YouTube, and they go and they look him up, and he goes, oh, cool. He just knocked both those dudes out like it was nothing. I'll pass. I get a lot of that from Talon. And Moises and his team was like, yeah, he looks tough. We like the fight. Man, I love that. I love that. I went on the Coach and the Casual with Ramsey Najim, their podcast, and Ramsey was like, if you're coaching amateur fighters and you're pick and choosing to try and pad records and stuff, he let out a bunch of expletives, but basically told coaches don't do that. And it's like, man, like if you think you got something, like let's find out as an amateur, like let them take their tough fights, you know, and their lumps as an amateur, and if you got something here, and make them bounce back from adversity as an amateur and things like that. Moises has a wealth of experience in California. They do a lot of like smoker type shows in-house gym shows. And I know Moises officially is 0-1, but I know he has a lot of experience. And when you go, and it takes a special type of fighter to watch somebody knock people out the way that Talon has, and then be like, yeah, I want that fight. So he's going to bring that energy to the Maverik Center Friday night. And I'm super excited for it because we know the energy that Talon's going to bring.
Talon Carvajal obviously credentialed. Moises Oslin, a couple of kickboxing bouts, as well as, like you talked about, those smoker fights as well, certainly credentialed in his own right. All right, first of 4 title fights on the line, the Atomweight Championship. This is a new division, Zach, and I think everyone's really looking forward to this. Mina Ushirawadi back, facing off against Amy Moreno, coming in from Chandler MMA as well.
Okay, so I'm first, Amy Moreno. Like, this fight was supposed to happen in August. Amy, unfortunately, got an injury and got an injury sparring, and Mina, coming off of her awesome win in May, said, maybe taking some more time, not August, and pushing this fight back to November does make sense. So originally scheduled for August. These girls have been knowing they're going to fight each other for a long time. But I'm gonna give Mina a lot of praise for a second. This is a fighter who has never picked and chosen matchups. She's never picked and chose where she fights. She's always accepted fights on Challenger Series. I think she welcomed she showed and has built a following, being a coach at her gym, being a fantastic martial artist, and just being a great ambassador for women's MMA here in Utah, and doing it under our show at Fierce. She's one of the girls that she never asked for a fight at the Maverik Center. I wanted her to have her moment at the Maverik Center fighting for this title because she earned it. I have a lot of fighters that hit me up all the time and just say, I just want to fight at the Maverik Center. They turn down fights to fight on Challenger Series, but are always willing to hop on a Maverik Center card. And that's fine, and that's their prerogative. But the fighters that just want to fight and aren't worried about where or the big stage or whatever, but they're just trying to get fights in. Those are the ones that I'm going to push to reward. And that's why Mina's fighting on this card. And she gets to pick her shot, right? She said, hey, I want to try 105 and do a title fight at 105 pounds. Cool. No problem. And Amy Moreno has been awesome to work with. And they are two very, very good fighters. Amy has a lot of people in her corner, that Tracy Cortez and other, big promotion fighters. I cannot wait for this fight. I think it could steal the show.
It absolutely could. Amy Moreno, also a collegiate wrestler over in Illinois back in the day. On top of that, like you were talking about with Mina Yushirawadi, I didn't realize this until I started doing my research for this card. She's the only one out of that gym in Orem that has not been in the Maverik Center. Viliami Kulu, Nate, Jackson, they've all had their fights in the Maverik Center. Mina Yushirawadi, who's been there from the very beginning, hasn't yet, so cannot wait for her to make the walk through those larger doors on Friday night. On top of that, let's move over to the amateur featherweight title. Ryder Campo back for the first time since November of 2016, facing off against Cross Hughes, who has been on a rocket ship dating back to May of this year.
Yeah, I mean, we all know what Cross brings to the table, right? He chunks heavy leather. It was really fun to watch his last fight against Morgan, watch him overcome some adversity in that fight too, right? And that was the first fight that we've seen him where he hasn't just kind of like trailblazed right through. And Morgan was so game, and to get great fights like they put on, it takes two. And but Cross showed us a little something more, that, before you fight for a title, how do you deal with adversity? And Morgan let him fight through that a little bit. And then Ryder, again, fighters that want to fight. He said, I just want to fight. Man, he's been asking me for a fight since this summer, and nobody would fight him as an amateur or a pro. He's willing to make his pro debut, amateur title, 145, 155. I mean, he's like, give me whatever you got. And man, it was no after no after no after no. The Cross Hughes will do it, right? So, I mean, this fight just kind of fell into our lap. It was not a fight I was planning on having on this card, but adding an amateur title fight between two of the best featherweight talents in the state and in the region just kind of was a no-brainer. And I'm excited. I mean, of course, Ryder's the younger brother of Amy Campo, ADCC winner. He brings a lot with that. Cross, Eric Iman and Jason Laporte's voted best mullet in Fierce Fighting Championship history.
Fourth fight in 6 months for Cross Hughes. As for Ryder Campo, back again. But on top of that, 5-0, putting that undefeated record on the line for that amateur featherweight title. All right, final amateur title, and then we're going to wait a little bit until the last pro title. But we've also got Jackson DeGray facing off against Kevin Guo. Kevin Guo just made the walk 4 weeks ago, but back in a bigger spot.
Yeah, I mean, another one. Kevin Guo was awesome. Originally, this fight, Jackson hit me up after his last fight, said, "Hey man, I'm healthy. If you got anything for me, let's go." Got him. His coach called me, said, "Hey, let's, I think he's earned a title shot." And I said, "You know what? You're right. He has earned a title shot." He put on an absolute clinic in September. I mean, Ben McNeil was 3-0 and is a very, very, very good fighter. And Jackson just seemed to have all the answers. And man, he was on the verge of a title fight when he stubbed his toe and lost to Jared Melton. Came back in a huge way, and I cannot wait to see him in this title fight. We were so excited for the original matchup with Edgar Sordo, our former amateur bantamweight champion. Edgar unfortunately got hurt. Wish him a speedy recovery. And then we had another member of the pit that was scheduled to do it. Things just timing wise just didn't work out for him. He was coming off of a quick turnaround, coming off of his steel fist fight. Originally Ramsey offered him up, and then just some things didn't work out. And I'm going, shoot, man, like, who am I going to get as the third opponent? And Ramsey takes a picture on Monday, the 2 days after his fight. And he said, "Hey, look who's in the gym, healthy, ready to go." I said, "Can you cut down to 135? Because last time he fought at 140, cut down to 135." And he said, "Yeah, he'll make it, and he wants this opportunity." So again, I usually kind of have a standard that for a title fight, we like to have 3 wins. Maybe if the weight class is a shallow weight class, some of the girls divisions, or things like that. I like that he wanted it short notice. He got it.
Yeah, I mean, Kevin Guo facing off against Jackson DeGray, a Pit SLC versus a Spider Monkey Muay Thai Riceroni BJJ person once again. I think there's a little bit more on the line now for the Pit SLC, considering that Jackson has already beaten one of their guys. It'll be the second fight with that matchup. All right, headed into this one, Maddie Meum facing off against Annabelle Kelly to kick off the pro card. Zach, obviously Maddie Meum, we've seen her throughout this year. Annabelle Kelly making her pro debut coming up from Syndicate MMA in Las Vegas.
Yeah, I mean, this is a big fight for both girls. Annabelle has been, I think she still has an upside down record as an amateur, 5-6 as an amateur, making her pro debut. That's a lot of experience. And you know what? A 5-5, 5-6 amateur record isn't always a bad thing if you're fighting tough competition. And she's fought on LFA as an amateur. She's gone to enemy territory as much, if not more, of any amateur I've seen. She's always kind of been the girl that has been brought in to fight the hometown girl, and she's going to find herself in that situation again. Maddie, I think getting really comfortable at the Maverik Center now. She was doing so good in the Amanda Lovato fight. Lost the fight that she should have won, but she was just really happy to be back right after the long layoff. And then she fought Katarina, and Katarina just turned out that she's just really, really good. Katarina's really, really good. But I think I don't think it's out of the question to say, or I'm speaking out of turn to say, like Maddie's going into this fight, she's like, I gotta win this one, and the way the Katarina fight lost made the Amanda one kind of hurt double a little bit. But Annabelle, she's been posting a lot. It looks like she's having a really good camp down there at Syndicate. Obviously Maddie trains at my gym. She's a teammate and a friend as well. She's been putting in a good camp, and I expect this to kick off the main card and be really, really fun.
All right, moving on to the next one. Teag Vigil moving up 10 pounds to 145 pounds welcomes former title challenger and would have been the champion if he had made weight, Raymond Lawley, coming in from Boise, Idaho.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited about this one. Teag, Teag's, I have grappled with him a little bit, and he's a 2-time state championship wrestler. Like, he's a stud grappler, and Raymond is a good power puncher, but he's a wrestler to his core too. And I think this could be the person that's in better shape wins. And I know that Teag feels like he was probably draining himself too much to make 135. He's one of these fighters that thinks the smaller weight cut, even though he's a smaller guy, is going to help him with his gas tank in the fight, weaponize his cardio. Really exciting. Really interesting with Raymond. He's coming off of a fight where he just absolutely got caught in the opening exchange of a fight, getting a 7-second knockout in his last amateur fight. Has been looking to fight for pro for a while. You always wonder when their last fight ended that way, where their head's at. Are they a little gun shy? I mean, we saw it with Leon Edwards, right? When he came back, like he's got knocked out by Leon, and now we've seen it with 2 fights where he just hasn't been able to pull the trigger like he used to. I'm really interested to see if Raymond hesitates to pull the trigger or exchanges in the grappling too early. I think this is a very interesting fight.
Cannot wait for that one at 145 pounds. Moving down to 135, Zach, you've been telling me you think this might be the fight of the night. Kesley Collard back once again. First time in Utah this year, facing off against Hava Nathan Owens.
Well, name somebody that's fought for Fierce that's put in 6 rounds of more exciting fights this year than Kesley Collard.
No one.
No one. Kesley has put on absolute banger after banger this year in the Fierce cage up in Idaho, coming down to Salt Lake City. And Nate Owens, it's so interesting with Nate. His record's 2-4, I believe. Fought Vic Lipari. Okay. They thought that was going to be an easy fight. Vic and his team, I think. And if there was one more round, or if there was a couple more minutes in that 3rd round, I think Nate Owens gets his hand raised. He showed that he has leveled up. He showed that he has dog in him all day. I think Nate Owens versus Kesley Collard it's so interesting because Kesley's tall and long, Nate's short and stocky. Kesley kind of picks you apart and just kills you volume style, Nate Diaz style. And Nate Owens has absolute bricks in his hands that I mean, Joe Haro, I even said when they hit, he's like, dude, he cracked me. Like Nate can crack, man. So I am super excited to see what that fight looks like.
All right. Well, sometimes when we film these Fight Week podcasts a couple of days early on, things do change on the card. And unfortunately, Luis Cortez is off the card. Fortunately, we have Jesse Salmon stepping up to face opposite Eric Iman. Zach, another fun one at heavyweight. Eric Iman back after a year and a half. Jesse Salmon making his fierce debut, a seasoned veteran in his own right.
Yeah. Shout out to Jesse Salmon. Like fighters that want to fight. Fighters that don't want to fight, don't. That's not it's not a dig, but I don't know. There's a lot to unpack, and it really doesn't matter. But at the end of the day, as soon as I get a text message or get an inclination that somebody's not going to be fighting, I immediately stop worrying about that, and it goes into problem solving mode. We were in talks with a handful of different potentials. One of them would have been like really fun, like really like probably would have blown the roof off the place. And it would have been awesome. But I had another person reach out that would have just shocked everybody. Said they were down to do it, but at the end of the day, Jesse Salmon didn't even hesitate. It was like, yes, absolutely. Let me make sure I can get work off. Talk to a supervisor, got work off, and yeah, I mean, dude, and Jesse's like, he's like really a 205er. He's moving down to 205. Like he walks around like 206, 207. So he's like, and he doesn't care. Dude, what a stud. I fought twice on same cards with Jesse. I really like the energy he brings to the show, and he has a self-belief in himself. And dude, he's crafty, like he's been doing this a long time too. He's 38 years old. He's been doing this a long time too. So I think it's a very good, fair matchup. I got a phone call from another fighter today that fights for Fierce that said that they fought on same cards with Jesse as well. And he said, I wouldn't be surprised if Jesse won this fight.
Zach, this is going to be a fun one. As someone who sits next to Eric Iman for a lot of these Fierce Fighting Championship shows, he's been itching to get back there for a few months now.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just going to be really frank and honest about this. When Eric told me that he wanted to come back and fight, it was one of those things where it's like, you're in your mid 40s.
45.
right? 45 years old. Like if you're going to come back and fight, like it needs to make sense. You know, if Iman can't get it done, it's like, you know, maybe him and his team will decide, hey, it's time. Like that was it. Which at 45, it's like, who's still fighting at 45? Like just tough dudes, right? And Eric is just tough as they come, tough as nails.
All right, we are going to move over to Zeke, Latu, and Cam Chism, our co-main event in the heavyweight division. Our last 3 fights are actually all in the heavyweight division, which will be a whole lot of fun.
Land of the heavyweights, baby.
Zeke Latu, since turning pro last year, has averaged a fight every 83 days. He has been as active as anyone on the Fierce roster. On top of that, Cam Chism coming back into enemy territory from Pennsylvania. Cannot wait for this one.
Zeke's been on every Maverik Center card, right? Since he made his pro debut.
Correct.
Yeah. Awesome. Cam, you know, he calls Fierce his home away from home now. Like this is his 3rd trip to Fierce, you know, fought Ben Mone in January, fought Luis Cortez up in June in Idaho Falls, now fighting Zeke Zeke and Kent are going to fight each other, but you know, it's a number 1 contender type fight. You know, I know Cam would like to compete for Fierce Gold and, you know, you know, if things don't go Kent's way in the main event, I know Zeke wants that fight back with Darion Abbey. So there's a lot of storylines that come out from this fight. Stylistically, very interesting fight, I think. I keep going back and forth. You know, Zeke's power has been a pretty good equalizer. Almost got Darion Abbey out of there. The Cam Chism's durability in the Ben Moa fight makes me think this could turn into a really good dog fight.
All right. 4th title fight of the evening. On top of that, the final fight of 2023 for what has been a momentous year for Fierce Fighting Championship. Darion Abbey coming into enemy territory, facing off against the pound-for-pound number 1 fighter, Kent Mafaleo. Zach, take it away from here. It's going to be a whole lot of fun.
Well, again, Kent's one of those guys. It's like 2 people turned him down before we got back to Darion Abbey, right? UFC vet, his verbally agreed to this fight, and it was done deal. Contracts were sent through his manager, and then the coach saw it, watched Kent's fight with Rudy, and said, nah, man, you're not taking this fight. In fact, you're going to go down to 205 and you're going to stay there. You're not fighting with a heavyweight prospect like Kent Mafaleo, because if you do, you're not getting back to the UFC. I mean, that tells you where Kent's at, right? That's the level Kent's at. Another undefeated prospect that said he wanted our title, and that fight still could happen in the future. And I'm not calling him out or anything, but you know, he wanted that fight, and then all of a sudden he has a boo-boo and doesn't know if he can be ready to fight in time. So we made the phone call to somebody that called for it. I knew would take it. You know, can I just say this? I know we're short on time.
No, you're good.
I was trying to find another opponent for Carson Hardman, who unfortunately isn't on the card. And all these people that say that they want to fight. And now I never understood when Dana White would say, like, people say they want to fight, but they don't really want to fight. And they'll say they'll take the fight, but then they do things to make sure that they get out of the fight. I ran into that so much with Carson Hardman. People, I'll fight anybody. And it's like, oh, you want me to fight this guy? Well, then I want way more money than I'm worth. Like, you know, it's like, you don't really want to fight, dude. You just want a paycheck and you're going to go in there and hope you get your hand raised. But Darion Abbey is not that guy. He's coming in. He's had a bunch of canceled fights himself. And he's like, I just want to fight. So he took the fight. He knows this is a tough fight. The thing that I love the most about this fight is they both believe to their core they're going to win. And if you look at their social medias, it's very interesting. They're very similar. Both of them talking about, I won't be denied. Both of them talk about, I won't be outworked. I mean, this could turn out to be the main event of the year, the main event of all main. Like, I think we're going to see Kent get pushed unlike he's ever been pushed before. And I think we're going to have to see Darion overcome some adversity in this fight. And both of them are just going to have to dig to the deepest parts of their soul to get their hand raised and that new nice gold Fierce Heavyweight Championship belt wrapped around their waist.
Heavyweight gold on the line, November 17th. Doors open at 4:30. Show starts at 5:30. Zack Partridge, we cannot wait for it. Thank you so much for the time.
Thank you, guys. Tickets, fiercefightingchampionship.com. Go check out our YouTube channel. Blake's been doing an awesome job building up a giant library on YouTube. Go follow us on YouTube.
Appreciate it so much, Zach. Thank you.